Hello everyone. Good evening. I'm sharing my screen. Can any one of you please confirm if my screen share is visible and I'm also audible?
Yeah, screen visible and voice is audible. We shall start.
Perfect. Cool. Okay, so yesterday we discussed about the client and server architecture. And there is one topic which is pending in chapter one, which is talking about a three-tier architecture model. So today we will talk about three-tier architecture model. Yesterday it was more of a client and server, which is a two-tier architecture model. So in three-tier architecture model, typically there are three systems involved. And let me write them here. I'm sharing my screen. So you have the front-end system, then we have the back-end system, and then we have the server-side system, which typically includes a database layer. Okay. Yeah. So in a three-tier system architecture model, these are the three systems involved. And I would like to help you guys understand what exactly we have in each of these systems and what is that we should know as an API test engineer. So when we talk about a front-end system, it is typically the presentation layer where the graphical user interface is present. Example, when you type gmail.com on the browser, you see the user interface of Gmail login page, a username, a text box, password text box, and a login button, right? So that is the front-end system. So let me just open anything. Example, this is a sample web application. Whatever you see now, I call it as a front-end system because this is the presentation layer. This is the graphical user interface layer. So point that we have to write now is front-end system. It is the presentation layer. Okay. And it is always rendered via the graphical user interface, such as browser or the mobile apps or any other physical devices. Okay? And the developers who work on the front end system, we usually refer to them as UI developers. Most of your organizations, you might have heard of them, right? UI developers, GUI developers. So I will say here, UI developers. Uh, okay, I can simply say UI developers work on the front end system development. Only the knowledge I'm giving you. And whenever we talk about the front end system, whatever or so-called manual testing that we do, it is typically on the front end system only. So at least the first 6 years of my career, I was a manual test engineer, which means my testing activities was completely focused on front end system. But I was under the assumption that I'm testing the entire software, and I was happily telling my manager or developers that the build is tested thoroughly using manual testing and we are ready for customer deployment or user acceptance testing or production deployment. And that was a foolish decision I took or the team those days took just by doing manual testing. So whenever we talk about manual testing, most of the times you end up doing front-end system testing, which is not the complete testing that's needed. Okay. That's one thing we have to remember. Second thing is uh, basic, not basic, I would say uh, front-end system uses the APIs, or I would say consumes the APIs to provide end user functionality. What does this fourth step means? Let me show you. Yeah. If you see this particular application, You see, this is in a particular font size, black color. That is UI development. This is also black in color with lesser font size. That is also UI development. Then check out this is a URL. This is also UI development. But when I click on it, some functionality is triggered and that is taking me to a page where I can see the nice beach view. Now, this click and where it should take me could be decided by an API call or by the backend developer or by the front-end developer. Now, this is just navigating from one place to another place. So this is probably the UI developer work. Second, when I click on the drop down, so many values have to come in the drop down. So this is also UI development work. Here also I have a drop down, I have to choose something. This is also UI development work. But when I click on find flights button, Boston to London, whatever flights are available, that data is there, not in the front end. It is there somewhere in the database. This is where when I click on find flights button, front end developer understands I cannot display the flights because I don't have the logic to know how many flights are there from Rome to London or any place. This is where the point to D comes into picture. Front end system consumes the APIs to provide end user functionality. So when I click on find flights, an API call is triggered by the front end to the back end and the back end to database. Database gives information back to front end, show to the user this kind of data. Then the front end says, okay, I will show the data. Showing the data is front end developer, but getting the data from database, validating the data in the back end is not front end development job. They consume the APIs and then they get the work done. So that is something that we have to remember. Front-end system may not have all the logic in the world present. Okay. Then coming to back-end system, it is the middleware layer, or people also call it as business intelligence layer. And backend layer is generally not available for end users. It is only available during the development phase and testing phases. Only testers and developers might have a user interface for backend or might not even have interface for backend. Okay, so most of the times it does not have an interface, or I can say it is not exposed to end users. And here I can probably write it is exposed to end users. Okay. And who will be part of backend system? API developers. API developers work on the backend system development, or backend developers. You can call them as backend developers. And backend, any questions, guys? Okay. Yeah. So backend system produces the APIs so that front-end system can consume it, which means the APIs are developed in the backend system. Remember that. APIs are most of the times developed in the backend system, which means if I go back here, when I click on find flights button, this find flights button is making an API call, and that API call is coming from backend. Front-end developer used that backend API call, and then only he is able to show the data. It is something like this. See, when I was studying in my college, I was not making money, meaning I am not producing APIs. My father is producing money. He is making money. So he is the API developer then. And he used to give me pocket money of 50 rupees or 10 rupees per day, assumption those days. So I'm using his money as my pocket money. So I'm consuming the APIs. I'm consuming the money given by my dad. Similarly, front-end developer consumes the APIs given by the back-end developer to display this data. So what did I do with that 50 rupees? I used to go to a bakery with my friends and had some egg puff or some cool drink for show-off purpose, right? Though the money is not generated by me, I consumed money from my father and then I started spending it. Similarly, front-end applications don't produce APIs. They consume the APIs from the back end and produce the data on the front-end system. And that is what I have written here. Backend system produces the API so that front-end system can consume it. Okay. Then we have a third system called server-side system. It is the database layer. This is where the database is present. And typically it is not exposed to end users. Okay. And also I can write here API validations happens here. And here UI validations happens here. And here it will be database level validations happens here. Okay. Now, what do I mean by these validations? I'll show it in the diagram. Give me a few minutes and you'll be able to understand what I mean. So let me say this is the front end system. And this is the middleware system, the API layer system. And let me say this is my database layer system. So these are the three boxes, 3-layer architecture. And if I talk about front-end system, so what happens here? It is the GUI layer that we discussed, right? And here, basic UI functional validations will happens here. What do I mean by basic UI functional validations? I will give an example and even you would be able to answer it. This is the page I'm going in. We know that when I put in the username or email address and click on password and click on login, does the front-end developer know that this email and this password is correct? Definitely no, because front-end system cannot have the database data in it. Database is there in the server-side system. So what happens when I don't enter email address, when I don't enter password, or when one of the fields is empty, and when I click on this login button, you see, I'm getting a warning immediately. The browser is not even loading, meaning it is not making any API call to the backend and asking whether empty username password is correct. The front-end developer says, I have minimum common sense that if the fields are empty, if one of the fields is empty or both the fields are empty, I should not send an API call to backend. I can only throw the error that one of the field is empty. Please fill out this field. So when the developer uses this basic common sense and does the validations, that's when we say basic UI simple functional validations happens here. Now, when I enter an email address like abcd@gmail.com and maybe some password like abcd123, now when I click on login button, the front-end developer says, since the email and password is entered, the basic validations have passed. Now when I click login, I can send this data through the API call to the backend, and backend will send it to server. A server will ask the database if these are correct or not. And database might say to backend, this is not correct. Backend will tell to frontend, this is also not correct. Then you will get an error message like this, some error. Okay, right now the error is not correct, but you will get something like username password is not valid. So what I would like to write here is, if front-end validations have passed, then the front-end request is sent to backend system. And if front-end validations have failed, then the front-end system rejects the request and throws an error. What do you mean by throws an error? Something like this. Now, password is empty. If I click login, you see I'm getting the error. Please fill out this field. That is what I mean. So who is interacting with this front-end system? Kiran. Who is Kiran? A user. So here you have to understand that there is always someone called a user who is present and accessing the front end system. So this guy is accessing the front end system, the user. Okay. Now, what happens once the front end system validations has passed? That request will go to the next system, which is backend. Right? And if the front end has failed the validation, saying username is missing, password is missing, it will throw an error rejecting it to the user. Like what you saw here, please fill out this field. Okay. The next system we have is backend system. Let's talk a little bit about it. And can I get a confirmation if you're all following me until this point? Do you have any questions? If yes, you can ask.
The front end systems that we are saying here is the host machines, right? Basically, the users who are wanting a service.
Correct. Yes.
And the back end system is our core network, the access systems, the service providers, the servers.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, now we have the backend system. And here on the backend system, I will say the front end request is received here and further validated by backend system. Now, when you're validating it, the answer is a binary answer. It has passed your validations or it has failed your validations. So let me say if backend validations on the API request has passed, then the backend system will forward the front end request to server. Okay, that's a positive scenario. The negative scenario is if backend validations on the API request has failed, then the backend system will reject the front end request to front end system. Sorry, then the backend system will reject the front end request and throws 4xx error, which is client-side error response code that we discussed yesterday. Which means now the possibilities are two. The backend can reject it or the backend can forward to server. So if the backend is rejecting it, it will look like this. This is a clear case of rejection. Okay, let me put it in orange color. But sometimes the backend can say, I received the front end and I validated it and it is perfect. Meaning in the API also, I'm seeing the username and password for the login request. So the backend says, let me forward it to server because even backend doesn't know whether the username and password is correct or incorrect. Only server will have access to all that data, right? So now the request will come here. So I will say here, backend request is received here and further validated by server or by the database system. Which means again, the answer is binary. The received backend request is still valid according to server or might not be valid according to server. So if server validations on the received backend request has passed, server will return 2xx response code. Okay, positive scenario. But if server validations on the received backend request has failed, server will return 4xx response code. Another scenario is there. If server is busy and cannot handle the incoming backend API request, server will reject the backend API request with 5xx response code. 5xx is internal server error or service not available situations. So server says I have three possibilities. I can say your request is valid. If that is the case, server would have given a success green response back to backend. If the request from backend is incorrect, server might give 4xx response, which is my orange. If the server is completely busy, cannot handle the incoming request, it can reject it using the red color arrow mark, which means, so I will say this is 5xx response code. One second, I think I've stopped my screen share. Okay, so this will be 4xx. This will be 2xx scenario. So now the backend will receive one of these things, either 2xx or 4xx or 5xx. Assuming that the backend received success 2xx, what it will do? It will say, let me forward that positive response back to the front end as well. But if it is receiving server error 5xx, then backend says, I won't hesitate to forward the same error back to the front end as well. So again, if you see, this is your 5xx being transferred. This is your 2xx being transferred. This will be your 4xx being transferred. And the front end will convert these error codes into meaningful messages and display it up to the end user. So let me also write here. The front end system converts the response code received from backend or server into a meaningful message for end users to understand. Something like when the username and password is incorrect, ideally we receive 401 unauthorized. So server generates 401, backend generates 401, but the front end will convert 401 to invalid credentials message. Because the end user may not understand what is 401, right? That is why it will convert it like that. So this is the simple three-tier architecture model that we all should be aware of. Okay, any questions, guys, on this three-tier architecture model? I wrote some points on the notes and I'm also writing it on the diagram so that you understand what I mean by three-tier architecture model. Probably there is more to what I have explained, but this is enough for us to understand as a test engineer.
So basically, this knowledge will be useful when there is a situation where an application fails in during its runtime, and I need to do the log analysis on the reason for that. It means a triaging, preliminary triaging. So this knowledge comes in handy. Correct?
Perfect, yes.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Thank you.
And as an API tester, we should definitely understand how the error codes are coming from the server when you are testing the APIs. Most of the times, right, in my experience, trust me, I'm saying this out of my pure experience that I experienced even today. I have a 9 years guy joining my team today who claimed he's an expert in API testing, Selenium automation, mobile app automation. But when I'm talking to that person on scripting level and why is this error coming, can you troubleshoot it? The answers are pretty fresher kind of thing, right? So what I personally believe is your years of experience does not matter. Your foundational knowledge matters a lot. So a 1 year guy explaining the way I'm showing, and a 10 years guy says, I can write the code, I don't care how to debug it, then 1 year guy is better than the 10 years guy, right? I experience it in all my projects with many people that I consult or I train or I talk to in the projects in customer locations. That's a sad state of affairs. So always I say foundations should be strong. Then the work you are doing will have a meaning and you will automatically get answers for all the problems that you are facing. Because that's how I saw success rate in solving the custom problems whenever I hear a problem. So I ensure that in the trainings, first we talk about the basics. Then when I talk about the scripting, automation, why this error is coming, I'm sure one of you will definitely correlate it to the previous classes and say, yeah, this was the point he said on that day. I think that is related to what is happening now. So that your brain will automatically tell. Even I don't have to tell you all those things again. Okay. Okay, I see a question on the chat. Let me read it. Subrat says, is the backend and database system hosted in the same server? Okay. Uh, Same physical server, right? You mean same physical server? It depends, right? The answer is yes. The answer is also no. It depends on the architecture the project team has decided or the architecture team has decided. They might say, I want the backend system to be on Singapore AWS server, while the database server or some other, I mean, if the backend should be on Singapore, the database can still be in Mumbai location in India, AWS. Meaning, server provider is AWS, but the locations are different, meaning the physical servers are also different. I can also have both servers in the same region like Singapore or same region like Mumbai or Hyderabad or anything. So, Subrat, the answer is yes and no. Your architecture team, DevOps team, your customer, some big shots will decide it. Right? See, it is something like this. The continuation is if yes, how the request and response works, right? Simple. See, if I have to talk to you on phone, doesn't mean you and I have to be geographically separated. You and I can sit next to each other, still we can communicate on phone, right? Request is going, response is coming. People might laugh saying, why are you talking on phone when you both are seated together? But we might be testing the telephone, right? But still you can communicate. Similarly, the boxes are same. Sorry, the physical infrastructure is same or different, but the systems are different, right? So they still communicate with each other because they have the responsibilities. It is like a boyfriend and girlfriend. They can communicate whether they are together or they are separated by physical distance also, right? Similarly like that. Okay. I still expect some questions on three-tier architecture, if any, because with this we have completed successfully the first chapter. Remember, the APIs are developed in the second box, which is your backend system. Front-end system only uses the APIs. And let me show you practically whether this client and server architecture, three-tier architecture is really a possibility. Is it really happening, or am I just saying for theory's sake? So let me right-click on my browser, go to Inspect, and go to Network tab. This is where we see the Chrome Developer Tools. Now I will show you how the front end is talking to backend. Okay. Now the username is entered, the password is not entered, which is mandatory. So if I click on login, the front end developer says, I don't have to call any API to know whether empty password and abcd@gmail.com is correct. He will only throw the error. If that is the case, I should not see any API calls on the right side. See, when I click on login, I'm getting this error, but not an API call. Because the front-end developer says, I'm not sending any call from front-end to back-end. If the call is going from front-end to back-end, which means in my diagram, if this green color arrow is happening, then only you will see the calls here. When I click on login, I am not seeing any calls here. That's a proof to you that front-end is not talking to back-end. Why is it not talking to backend? Frontend says, why should I talk? Because I know that password is empty, so I will only throw the error. I don't want backend to tell me that you throw an error because that is common sense. Now I will enter some password ABCD 123 or just ABCD. If I click on login, front-end developer says username should be there, it is there, password should be there, it is there. So my functional checks, meaning my UI checks, is completed. If I click login, front-end says I don't know whether this username password is correct, so I have to depend on the second system, which is backend. Meaning now this green color arrow will come because front end has to talk to back end. Then the API call will come here. So click on login and you see the login call is coming here. And if you click on this login button now, this is the API call. If you click on login, let me expand it. So here you see headers, payload, preview, response, initiator, timing cookies. Come to the headers tab, expand to general. And when you click on login, this is the API request sent by front end to back end. And it used HTTP method as post request for the login. Then these are the request headers sent by front end to back end. Yesterday we discussed what are front end, what are request headers. So one header that is sent is method. Then the protocol is also sent. Then accept header is there. Accept language is there. Content to type is there. Cookies are also there. Then you see user agent is also there. User agent is telling the request is going from Windows and the browser is Chrome and the version is 142. That is the browser version that I have. So request
Sir,
headers also.
sir, sorry to interrupt. Here we are trying to log in, right? So why it is post method? It should be get method, right?
Okay, good observation. But I think I answered it. If not, I'll still answer one more time. Login ideally has to be get method. I agree with you. But for all security reasons, if the login API goes to server or backend as get, there are chances of hacking. Hence, the industry is using post for login method. In your project or my project or in any company, whenever you have a login API, it will always be post method. Just remember that. Otherwise, ideally, according to the theory I have given you, according to the theory we have in the books, it should be get method. But post is safe instead of get for login. So it will be post only. Okay. Yeah. Then in the payload, you will see what is the username I sent, abcd@gmail.com, and the password is abcd. Then you got a response. You can also preview the response, which is this error 419 page expired. That is what you saw here also. And you also have received response headers, caching response, content length response, content type, the date, the server name, cookies. Okay, so these are the headers we got. So I'm showing you entire client and server architecture also here. HTTP method is there, protocol is there, API request is there, status code you see, response code. You saw request headers, you saw response headers, and you saw the request body, and you saw the response body also, meaning response. The entire three-tier architecture, sorry, client and server two-tier architecture is shown. Coming to three-tier architecture, this is the front end you see, and front end is sending an API call which is login, and the server executed, the database executed these credentials, which is abcd@gmail.com and abcd, and database said invalid credentials. It gave this error 419, and 419 is the backend error generated, and this 419 error is translated to an English message called page expired by front end system. So in the same application, you are also seeing the three-tier architecture model. Okay, go ahead. There is a question from Laiku.
Hey, Kiran, I had a similar question as to why we were using post for user ID password, right? But didn't you say the first time we register, we get a token created and that gets sent? That's used for the authentication. So we should still be using get with that authentication token and not post, right? Because post means you're every single time you're updating the database with the same information.
No, post is used for creating data in the database.
Right. Why would we be creating the same user ID password every single time?
So that's what that is what I was answering him. Here, post for login doesn't mean I'm creating a username and password. We are still logging into the application using existing credentials. So ideally, post should be replaced with get. That is how the industry used in the initial days of login functionality coming into picture. In the year 2000, get was used for login. Later, the hacking process became so common that for security reasons, all the login calls are converted from get to post by the industry. Hence, the developers are using only post for the login calls. For other functionalities, they use get or post or put or delete. For now, you have to understand that it is a default standard in the industry that we should use post for all login, but not get.
So
Okay.
every time it does the post, a new token is created for that user ID password?
If you're, no, whether token is created or not is secondary.
Right.
If you are attempting a login with invalid credentials or valid credentials, it will always be a post call. It should be a post call only.
Okay.
Okay, developers are using post call, so we are seeing post call. Ideally, your answer is correct. You both are saying get should be there. Even I agree with you, but there is a problem with get in the industry for login functionality because people are stealing your credentials. They wanted to protect it, and post offered a better security than get. Hence, post is used in the place of get only for login. For
Okay.
other activities I do, get will come if I'm getting the data.
Okay, but if we are testing the API itself from Postman and using the token, right, that is created, would we still do a post or it should be a get?
Okay, so which means you are saying you have logged in successfully, you got a token.
Right.
Now, what is the next request you are trying to do? You might say, okay, I'm trying to update my profile picture. So since you are updating, you will use put method with the same token. You might say, I'm deleting my picture, Kiran. But again, you have to be logged in. So with the token you gained, you are using delete method to delete the picture. You might say, I am reading one of my old messages. So again, you will use get in that case with the token. You will say, no, I'm sending a message now. So you are sending a message, meaning creating a message, then you will use post method. So after the
Okay.
token is received, you can use any method depending on what action you are initiating.
But within the same session, right? Because the token gets regenerated again when we are logging in again.
When you log out, current token is gone. Again, when you log in, a new token comes in.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Kiran.
Yeah, perfect. And in the first project I'm automating, we will have the concept of tokens. So you will probably get the practical understanding also. Now you have to little visualize all my explanations. Okay. Any other questions from others on this 2-tier architecture or 3-tier architecture? Okay, let me see if there is anything else in the chapter 1 that I forgot. Yeah, that's it. I think the first chapter is perfectly completed. Then we can move on to chapter 2, where the focus is more on so I'll say this is chapter 2 now. So in chapter 2, I would like to talk about the evolution of APIs, how the technology of APIs have come into picture. Now I'm getting little closer to APIs. Okay. In chapter 1, it was more of theoretical understanding about the client and server 2-tier, 3-tier architecture, which is the foundation pillars for understanding APIs in the world. Chapter 2 will take 2 steps closer to the world of APIs. And directly, I don't want to talk about API testing immediately because let us get the foundation correct first. So there are different technologies used to develop APIs. Different types of APIs have come in the world. The first technology we had was XML RPC APIs. But for some reason, it became outdated. Later, another technology came called SOAP APIs. It also became outdated for some reason. Then another technology called REST APIs have come. And parallelly, now there is a new technology called GraphQL APIs have come. So these are the 4 types of technologies that we should be aware of when it comes to evolution of APIs. Let us understand what do they mean. So first, let me talk about XML RPC APIs. XML stands for extensive markup language. We know that. So it is extensible markup language. RPC stands for remote procedure calls. That is a full form RPC. And when this technology came into picture, okay, so when this technology came into picture, the content type they have used is XML. Content type means the format in which data is being sent from client to server or server to client. So XML RPC APIs used XML as the mode of communication during request and response submission. And this technology is 100% outdated as of today. No organization uses this technology because this was formed sometime in 2002, 2003, and it was killed soon after that. So this is a very old technology. So let me put it in red color. And ideally, no one is interested to talk about that. No one is in fact aware of what is the technology today because there is no project that we can talk about it. But from understanding perspective, interview perspective, better we know it. But when this technology is outdated to develop APIs, someone has to come and replace it. That someone is SOAP APIs. So SOAP means it stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. That is a full form. Okay. And here also the content type used is XML. Developers are still using XML in SOAP APIs as well. And this technology is 90% outdated as of today. 10% people are still using it. Few companies are using even today as I speak. And here the HTTP method used is only post method. So when I'm teaching you SOAP API project in this course, we will be using only post method. We cannot use get, put, patch, delete because when SOAP APIs were created, the HTTP methods were not so many. Only post was used in those times. So with the post only, they were able to achieve everything. Any action you want to achieve, you have to use post only. Okay. However, this technology also became little outdated because of so many reasons again the industry had. But when this technology became outdated, someone has to replace it. That someone is REST APIs. And REST stands for Representational State Transfer. That is a full form given for it. And here the content type can be anything. Any format is allowed, meaning developer can use text format, HTML format, XML format, JSON format, YAML format. Anything is allowed here. Then the HTTP method used is all HTTP methods are allowed, meaning we can use get, you can use post, you can use put, you can use patch, you can use delete, etc. Any HTTP method is allowed here. There is no limitation like SOAP APIs where only you have to use post method. Okay, so here any HTTP method can be used. And Google is the founder of REST APIs. All the Google products initially used REST APIs. Slowly, Google saw that REST APIs are very good. They're offering good security. They are better replacement for SOAP APIs. They made it open standard. And now the entire world is using the REST APIs, which is developed by Google for Google products initially. So thankfully, I mean, we all should be thankful to Google for giving that such a technology, which is still running today. And REST APIs are in existence probably from 2010 until today. It's been 15 long years, but still today the number one technology for APIs is REST APIs. Okay, and this is 100% being used today. So if I hear my company saying, Kiran, we are developing some APIs, I know it will be REST APIs only. In your company also, if you say, Kiran, we are working on APIs, it will be REST APIs only. 100% we can take an easy guess because that is a go-to technology today. Okay. Now, when this is the latest technology, then what is this GraphQL APIs that I'm talking about? So this is a technology that came recently, couple of years back, maybe 2-3 years back. I think this technology came. And here QL stands for query language. So query language based APIs. And people say it is an advanced version of REST APIs. And Facebook is the founder of GraphQL APIs. They also made it open standard, so everyone can use it now. And right now, not everyone is interested in using these APIs, but the industry standard I saw on Google search and other areas is 40% of the companies are started using GraphQL APIs technology, while other companies are saying, no, we are happy with REST APIs. And GraphQL is little complicated also from testing perspective, development perspective. I have worked in one of the projects and it was a little complicated, but as I've started testing it, it became easy for me at least. So these are the four types of API technologies that we should be aware of. Which means if someone says, what are the different types of APIs available in the industry? Your answer will be, first we had XML RPC APIs, then came SOAP APIs, then came REST APIs, then came GraphQL APIs. So that's the answer I will give it. Any questions, guys, here on any of these things?
Sir,
I'm not getting in.
Sir,
Yeah,
one question. What is RESTful, sir? Is it an
both,
API RESTful?
both. No, both are same. REST APIs, RESTful APIs, both are same. It's just a different name given.
Okay. And another thing for GraphQL, there is no HTTP method, is it?
So REST APIs or RESTful APIs. Okay, you said GraphQL APIs. They also use all the methods.
Okay. Thanks.
But in the projects that I am working, most of the times my developers use only POST. But when I ask them, is it a rule that we should use only POST? They say, no, we can use any method. But most of the times, majority of the times, GraphQL uses POST. Maybe for security reasons, I guess. But it supports everything because it is just an advanced version of REST APIs. Okay. Now, whatever I told you right now, right, in this evolution of APIs, it is only to help you in the interviews if someone asks. Even if you do not know this, there is no problem. You can still go ahead with testing. But when we say that we are API experts from a testing perspective, we should know the order in which they were created, which are the old technologies, which are the latest technologies in the market. I'm going to explain one project for SOAP APIs and two projects for REST APIs in my course. Okay. And any questions, guys? Let me know now. Anyone has questions?
A question. These notes, you have them the way you're explaining them here, or
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that?
the notes we are doing here now?
Okay, the notes.
Are you saving them in the same way, or?
Yeah, I will share the notes. Most of my notes is available on the Google Drive. Once I have the final confirmed participants, I will give access to the Google Drive and you have the entire notes in a better format. You can read it from there. And this rough notes I'm preparing, I'll put it on the WhatsApp group as well. So you can refer the rough notes as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Fine. So I think I'll stop the session here. And the next topic that we are going to talk about is classification of APIs. This I'll pick up in the next class, classification of APIs. Again, we have another classification. After that, I will talk about API syntax, the structure of an API, then some examples of APIs on the internet. So you will see how the APIs looks like once I provide the API syntax. With this, we will complete chapter 2 also. Okay, this is something I have planned in the next class. We'll complete this in the next class. Okay. After that, we'll move to chapter 3 and we'll talk about API testing techniques. That's the last theory chapter. And then directly we'll go ahead, download Postman, install, login, set up the framework, pick up one first project, understand the project, start configuring in Postman, slowly write test scripts, and start building the framework. Okay. So I would say another 2 or 3 classes will be theory. After that, will be full on practicals. And all the remaining 2, 3 theory classes are also equally important for you to enjoy the practicals. Okay.
Kiran, do we have a class tomorrow?
Tomorrow, right? Um, I will have to check. Most likely,
Okay.
if because sometimes there are few participants who says, "Can I get just one additional day to decide?" So that's when we might end up canceling the class. But right now, just watch out for the message on WhatsApp group. I cannot guarantee it will be cancelled. Ideally, I do not want to cancel any classes, but since I work for the institute and I have to go by their norms, in case if we cancel the class tomorrow, then we'll catch up again on Monday only. And Monday onwards, no more breaks. Every month, I mean, every day, Monday to Friday, we'll continuously have classes.
Yeah, I didn't want to miss any practical classes at all, but Monday to Friday next week I'm traveling, so as
Yeah,
I
you
said,
said.
the theory classes I'll be able to catch up. Practicals, if I need anything, is there a possibility of maybe just jumping on a call for a one-on-one for 30 minutes or so just to catch up?
Sure, sure, we can do that. No issues. And let me also help you. See, Monday, in case if the class stands cancelled tomorrow, Monday we will
Right.
be having completing chapter 2.
Okay.
Then Tuesday, Wednesday will be chapter 3, which is theory again, just explaining
Okay.
the testing techniques.
Right.
Thursday, Friday, we will be setting up the Postman tool, like download, install, login, understanding
Right.
the basics UI flow.
Yeah.
So trust me, the project 1 documentation testing starts from
The week after.
after that, meaning after you're
Okay.
back only, because that's how the
Okay.
flow even I have. So most
Okay.
likely you will be on the positive side only.
Perfect. Because yeah, I mean installation and all, I already have Postman. I know up until then I'm good with. It's just that I didn't want to miss anything when we start the practical project 1 because I want to be hands-on doing things that you're teaching us and as well as some pick up some new exercises that we could work on our side. So yeah, if that's the schedule, then I'm good with it. I really did not want to miss any of the practical sessions.
Sure, sure. Um, we are on it anyways. Sure. Good. Okay. So any other questions, guys, for me? That's all I have
Uh,
for today. We
Kiran,
went.
1 second. I have one question. Yesterday class I couldn't attend. So you are
Okay.
referring to backend systems, that layer. It is a
Mhm.
middle layer of the business logic, business layer something. So I was always thinking that backend system means generally it is a database systems.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the
I'm getting a
confusion
bit
everyone
confused.
has. Yeah, yeah, Geeta, I understand. Everyone has that confusion, but now it should be cleared. Backend always does not mean server. Backend does not mean database. Between server and front end, there is someone in between. That someone in between is the backend layer. Otherwise, people call it as middleware layer. That is where APIs are developed. That is where the entire business intelligence is present. Front end is always a dummy layer. It has no intelligence. Backend is an intelligence layer. All the logics are present in the backend. And in the server, the database is there where data is getting stored. So it is like this. The appearance of a human being is front end layer, but beauty with talent we say, right? So beauty is the front end layer. Talent is the brain, which is signaling how to talk, what to teach, how to write the exam, how to do our work, how to treat seniors, etc. So that is coming from your brain. So that is the backend layer. And the database or server is your memory, probably, because your memory is something that's storing the data, right? So that's the backend, that's the database layer. So 3 layers exist. Backend does not mean server, backend does not mean database. But people assume since they are present behind the scenes, they simply refer it to as backend. It's just a nomenclature misuse.
Okay.
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 But now you have the clarity and all of us have the clarity. Let us use that as it is.
Okay. Fine. Yeah, thanks.
Sure. And guys, I appreciate any question coming in, and silence is worst. So do not keep silent. Ask any kind of question. I'll be happy as you ask questions because that's how the class becomes interesting. And I will also know that whatever I'm teaching is also something that you are listening and active in the classes. So one more question on from Sai. Please don't put any breaks. Sure, Sai. In general, I will never skip any classes because even I hate myself if I skip classes until and unless there is an avoidable situation. Tomorrow, since other participants who are still thinking here and there, we also wanted as many students as possible. When I say as many, not 100, 10 is enough for me. I don't want more. For that reason, there might be a break again. But again, Isha team decides that. And Subrat says, when is the next security testing batch? So Subrat, maybe another 2 weeks or so, I might start a security testing batch. But if I'm starting it, I will just take 1 minute and announce in this batch as well. So if anyone is interested, you can join my demos for the first 3 classes and then take a decision to continue security also if you want.
Kiran, what else are you teaching other than security and API testing?
Accessibility.
Okay.
And
You have anything on performance testing going or?
Yeah, Karen. Yeah, even I was supposed to ask the same question. So performance, is there any batch right now that you are planning to take performance on Jmeter especially?
Yes. I am doing Jmeter as well, but outside Isha, I'm doing it. Within Isha, we have another trainer, so I don't want to conflict with him. So he's doing the performance testing with Jmeter, but I do Jmeter as well with another institute. So in case if you're planning for Jmeter with Isha, I can route you to the right person. If you are interested with me, you can be in touch with me on WhatsApp and I will let you guys know if I'm starting a batch. I have one student who just completed API testing from me. She's from Australia and she wanted to get into performance testing as well. So I might start a batch with her. So right now I have only one student and 2 more students are there, but they're still taking some time. So I said, okay, let's give it a break for 2 weeks and then we'll start the batch. Accessibility, we will be starting. Security, we will be starting just another 2 weeks, I guess, because last week only I have completed accessibility and 1 week before that I have completed security. I usually take a 10 days gap to start the next batch. So probably after December first week is when you can think I might start accessibility or security. And 1 week after that, I'll start immediately the other one, security or accessibility. So if I'm starting it, I'll just put an announcement here and then you will get an update.
Kiran, your phone number, right? Your WhatsApp number.
Yes, same.
If I want to reach out to you for the other, the performance class you'd be taking, is it on the group or if you can share that, I can just maybe reach out to you.
Yeah, it's on the group. I just gave it on the chat also now, Zoom chat. For everyone, you can make a note.
897. Okay, it's 331. Perfect. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Perfect, guys. Then, again, any questions that you have, feel free to ask me on the WhatsApp group. If you're part of the WhatsApp, I'm sure all of you are on the WhatsApp group, but now that you have my number, if you have any questions, WhatsApp me. Happy to assist your queries. I'll put the notes on the WhatsApp groups so that if you want to refer whatever I have told until now, feel free to go through them. Thank you very much again. Good night to everyone. See you in the next class. Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.